This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you!
Boring. Boring. Boring.
Okay, you got it. Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
But remember what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
That's our Prime Minister, return of the sausages. I never tire of seeing that. Welcome back to another edition of Lembit Öpik Live here on Unprecedented TV, where we find the facts, kill the spin, and tell it as we see it. You will hear our opinions as well, but they're never dressed up as facts. Your mission is to think for yourself. That's why you're here. That's why Unprecedented TV exists. And thank you for the ever-increasing numbers of viewers. Please subscribe. Go to Unprecedented TV on YouTube. You'll find it ever more easily as the numbers go up. Costs you nothing to subscribe. And boy, you will find a vast array of great programs there. Everything from current affairs to entertainment. And let it be known that our great pet project, Mr. Calamari, a series based in Corfu, is very close to becoming a reality. That's because some very generous people are interested in investing. You can invest too, but we'll talk about that on another occasion. In the meantime, thank you very much for being here at a time when the country seems to be a little with the government. Indeed, Keir Starmer, remember him, has now been decided upon as the most unpopular prime minister in the history of the United Kingdom. Minus 66% is his approval rating, or disapproval rating more accurately. More unpopular than Boris Johnson, than Margaret Thatcher at her most unpopular, more unpopular than Liz Truss. And still, he carries on digging. His most recent escapade, which he seemed to proudly want to unveil at the Labour Party conference, is digital ID. What, you may ask, is that? Well, it's a spy in your life. It's the idea, this is my opinion now, it's the idea that by giving everyone digital identification, which means that they can spy on everything you do all the time, you're going to be safer. More specifically, they assume that if you have digital ID, then all those migrants who come across illegally on boats and commit their first criminal act by setting foot on the beaches of Dover and the surrounding area will go, oh, I better get digital ID before I start working for an illegal employer. That's literally what he thinks. He thinks people will be deterred. No national insurance number, no income tax, no VAT, to quote Only Fools and Horses, and no passport, because they've thrown that into the channel to feed the fish. But yes, these folks are going to want digital ID. What is wrong with this man? Is it any wonder he's so unpopular? Well, you may have a different view. You might want to change your view like the Liberal Democrats have. Apparently they were in favor of it and then they were against it. I think they're against it at the moment, but that could easily change if Ed Davey thinks he can get a laugh somewhere. What a clown. I don't dislike the guy, but he should take his job a bit more seriously. Methinks, another opinion. Well, let's talk about this with a union which is never backward in coming forward in defending your rights. It's the Workers of England Union. If you haven't heard of it, you should have. They're one of the smartest outfits in the union world. I've had the honor of knowing them for a couple of years, and I've always been impressed with what they do. Step forward, Stephen Morris, the General Secretary of the Workers of England Union. How have you been?
I've been fine, Lembit, keeping busy. Now it seems we're going to get even more busier with this ID lark.
It's incredible. Just before we go into that, tell us about the Workers of England Union.
Workers of England Union, we've been going for 16 years now. We're a completely independent trade union. We don't affiliate to any political party. We don't affiliate to the TUC because they're obviously supporters of the Labour Party. We're completely independent. We operate very much like a solicitor's firm, but under trade union regulations. So we will represent members on their issues. It's not bothered about our view. We may not necessarily agree with the people's view, But our role as a trade union is to represent them in their employment issues. And obviously we really came to the forefront as the only trade union that was out there campaigning to represent employees who didn't want to have the COVID vaccine at the time, where other unions backed off and didn't want to help them. And whether you wanted it or not wasn't the question. The question really was, were they properly represented in the workplace? And we were the ones stepping forward to do that. And at present, we're doing very well. You know, our membership's been quite steady now for quite a number of years, growing slightly each year. As we take on the main unions, obviously the other unions don't like us because of our stances on things, which is quite ironic, really, because our stance is very much based the traditional trade unionist, you know, represent the worker on their issues, regardless of our views, you know, put forward the best arguments. And we're doing really well on it.
It sounds to me like the perfect union, to be honest with you. You've made a point, and we're going to have to talk about Labour at some point. You made a point that by supporting the TUC and all of that, you're essentially bankrolling Labour. You're essentially propping up the current shower, if I dare say that, that is wrecking the country. Do you not get a lot of pressure as a union to do exactly that?
No, actually, we don't really do. We do get questioned quite a bit about, we're not a proper union because we're not with the TUC. We do get that, but people need to look at the fact that there's only 47 trade unions that affiliate to the TUC out of approximately 130. And it's only certain trade unions that do that. So some do try and question us on that. Why aren't you with the TUC? Well, we're independent. We don't need to affiliate to a TUC who then affiliates and shows support for a particular party. Now, yes, we've mentioned Labour, but it doesn't matter which party it is. We're not there to support the party. We're there to support the member. And that's why we have people who may be members of varying different parties from left to right. But when they have an issue, they come to us because we will represent them. So, yeah, we have had questions raised about it. Certain groups have said we're not a credible union because we're not affiliated to the TUC. But here's the thing. A union is a regulated trade union. We're regulated by the Certification Office, which is a government body, and we get audited each year. So as far as our credentials are concerned, we're the same as Unison, Unite, and that. The big difference is obviously we're better. So we do get some people saying, well, Unite's one of the biggest unions in the country. I say, which country? Because Unite's membership is the whole of Great Britain, Northern Ireland, and Ireland. You know, we're very specific on where we represent people of England because there's no TUC for England. We've already mentioned TUC. There's a Welsh one, Scottish one, an Irish one, but no English one. Yeah. And so this is where England's been left behind, and where we filled a specific gap on it, on representing pure England. And some of your listeners and viewers may not know, but when we was in the run up to the Scottish referendum, the government at the time shut down the shipbuilding on the south coast of England and moved it up to Glasgow. And the other unions didn't bother complaining or anything. But England lost out to satisfy the Scottish vote. And there's certain things like that really have annoyed us, because people of England have been really left behind where the decision of the UK government is concerned. And we're seeing it again.
It's interesting you should say that. In America, politicians are notorious for shifting things around just to gain votes and repay their supporters. One of the reasons why the US space program was so disparate is because I think Lyndon Johnson shifted a whole part of the space program into his strong area. So you got Cape Canaveral in one place, and I think you've got the mission control somewhere else. But what's interesting about what you say also is that you are very England-centric. There's a clue in the name. And I suppose that makes you particularly interested in the antics of the Westminster government, which kind of doubles like the English administration as well. And moving on to the subject, just before we go further, how can people join the Workers of England Union? I'll ask you to say this again at the end.
Yeah, they just go to the www.workersofengland.co.uk, and there's 2 buttons on there that shows you whether you want to pay by the annual fee or the monthly fee, direct debit. And we have a part-time rate and a full-time rate. That's anybody over 21 hours is on full-time. Below that is part-time. And we have had people question, well, your subscriptions are well lower than the others. And say, well, yeah, but we have a very efficient office base. We only have one office. That's for administration purposes only. All our reps are based around the country and work from home. So they'll operate out from home. They'll travel from home. We don't have multi-million-pound offices in Liverpool or Birmingham or London. You don't need them. I think we were kind of at the forefront of working from home and being efficient before the COVID era hit, and working from home became a bit of a norm for a lot of people. So yeah, so that's how we keep our prices low, because we know people are struggling. We know people are being hit. So that's what we do. You know?
How much is it out of interest?
It's £12.95 full time, and it's £7.95 part time.
That's per month.
Per month, yeah. Or they can pay £145 annual fee on that one. So for the full time. So this is why we operate as we are. And the usual, I've already mentioned it about some of the other unions try and say, well, they're the biggest unions, and we say, well, they may the biggest, but we're the best. You know, there is a difference.
That's I say of Unprecedented TV, we're not the biggest yet, but we are the best. And we don't want to beat the mainstream media. We want to be the mainstream media. So we're thinking big too. Maybe we should affiliate my entire workforce to Workers of England Union. But then you might represent them against me. I'll have to be a member too in that case.
I have just recently represented somebody against a similar kind of organisation.
Well,
it was interesting.
I'm on my toes then. I'm actually very fond of the Workers of England Union. But reason I won't go into, I have a huge respect for you and your people. Less respect for this man, Starmer. Yeah, Keir Starmer, this grey mediocrity. He just has no facial expressions. I don't think he has any real feelings. I think he's a sociopath. And here he is droning on about something. But what he's been droning on about recently is the ID card. He says now that the ID card is going to stop people from coming into the country. I don't believe him. I think it's utter tosh. And it seems to me that so does the Workers of England Union. You put out something, if we can get actually that up on the stage, onto the screen. You put out a press release quite recently, actually. Yeah, there it is. Let's have that there. Trade union statement opposing digital identification. There's a join today button. I take it on the right there.
Yeah.
From your screen. Now tell us, why are you so against digital ID cards? And I'll express an opinion. I will express a point of view. I am totally against them. But never mind why I think that. I will share in a minute. Why is the Workers of England Union against it?
Well, we believe it's just an infringement on the individual rights of the person. A lot of the other IDs are by choice, but the one that they're trying to push now, which the government is trying to do, it won't achieve what they want to achieve. So under current basic ID regulations at the moment, if an employer wants to implement biometrics ID, it's called special category data. And they have to look at whether it's proportionate and reasonable in what they're doing. And if there's an alternative method, so as an example, if they want facial ID when you're signing on at work, is a swipe card or something similar but more suitable, and then they've got to go with that one. And on this one, it's like, well, it's to stop the illegal workers. It's to stop the black market of, economy. It won't. It's just a simple nonsense argument, because people who work illegally because they want to be off the books. They don't want any form of ID. They don't want a national insurance number. They don't want to show passports. They don't want to show driving license. Don't want to show any rental agreements or anything like that. They want to be completely off the books. And these unscrupulous employers that will employ them and that will continue. It's not going to stop illegal immigrants working or from that side. But the other thing is, like I've already said, it's about the infringement of the individual. Why should a government have all its data on me when it's already there? So if it's my health, national insurance number, they've got it. If it's to do with my driving, DVLA's got it. If I go abroad, passport office has got my passport details. None of them have the same, all the details together. But can you imagine if they got hacked, like Jaguar Land Rover has had problems at the moment, and the government's having to back up a £1.5 billion loan because they got hacked? Can you imagine if somebody got hacked? Not only do you have your driving license, your national insurance, your complete health records, that leaves it open for anybody to clone your ID. Absolutely clone it.
This is the issue that I've got. I can hardly believe that a government as incompetent as the current one, for a moment, imagines that it's even a good idea to put 70 million people's worth of data in one place. They couldn't even conceal the name of Afghan refugees, who in theory at least were in danger of their lives. They couldn't even keep that secret. Just imagine, there's a child care organization called Kiddo, and they've been hacked. And these horrible, unscrupulous scum are putting photographs up of children. They don't care. And now we're meant to give them our details, presumably of everything from our sexual orientation through to our health records, presumably our financial circumstances, where we live, everything. It's unbelievably ridiculous to me that a government that can't even keep its basic promises on tax is now thinking that we should entrust it with the most sensitive information about us and our families, Stephen.
Yeah, it is absolutely ridiculous. I'm just dead set against it, and we had loads of correspondence from our members quickly asking what's our position on it. But our position has been very straightforward, and we always believe in individual rights, the rights of the individual, bodily autonomy, all that. Our main concern is where does it stop? Who's got when they've got all that data, who do they check for it then? Do they go after certain trade unionists? Do they go after certain people within the workforce? Do they start say, well, I know there's a lot of people talked about if you're eating the wrong thing, do they suddenly stop you purchasing stuff at the supermarket? Mm-hmm. Now, that people might think that's far-fetched, but bear in mind, people like the superstores already gather your data on what you purchase, through the store cards. So it's not far-fetched to suddenly say, well, hang on, if the government also has that data, are they going to say, well, remember when they were trying to bring in the sugar tax and stop people drinking drinks? Are they going to suddenly say, well, hang on, you're not allowed to purchase that now because it's bad for your health, you've had too many? It's not as far-fetched as people may think if you link all this data into one central core. And we've had cases, and we've actually got a case ongoing at the moment with Birmingham City Council, who's tried to get some of their care workers to use what's called a Birdie app. And this is to biometrics, facial ID, and we was dead set against it because they could have the normal cards. But what they didn't tell people was the actual app, one of the clauses in the app said that you sign over the worldwide rights to your image to the app.
What?
People. Yes. And to me, that is absolutely appalling. Now, so if you're signing up, 99% of people won't read the clause, small clause. And when they get this app, they won't realize what they're actually signing up for. They'll think, oh, it's okay. It's about working. No, it's not, because I'm already working. Why do I need it? Mm-hmm. Is it about your benefits? It's what could go down the line. And we've seen certain legislation brought in previously that was aimed for one thing, but then targeted other people. Mm-hmm. And the classic one I usually mention is, you remember when the Terrorism Act was brought in, to try and counter that, how many tourists and how many photographers kept getting pulled up for taking standard pictures of historic buildings around London? They started to get pulled up.
Yeah.
It's where does it go from there? But going back to the very basics, a worker has the right to say, no, I'm not having this. Bodily autonomy, the biometrics are my property, they're not your property, and I shouldn't have to hand over my rights to say to you, oh, I can work. Well, I've got my national insurance number, go away. But the other thing is, people also forget, there's already processes in place. There's already processes in place to verify whether people have the right to work here or not.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Of course they do. And this is the problem. What Keir Starmer seems to be saying, and this is the insane thing about it, is that passports don't really count. National insurance numbers aren't that important. The digital ID card will fix all of these problems. And the assumption, like you've just said, Stephen Morris, the assumption that somebody is willing to cross a continent, cross the channel, break the law the moment he sets foot on the ground, is going to be worried about an ID card, it beggars belief. How unintelligent is Keir Starmer? An international embarrassment, in my view, because the dog in the street can see that this is nonsense.
Yeah, it depends, because he's very much like a puppet on strings, isn't he, when he's talking? And you just keep expecting this hand to appear somewhere at the back of him. He's just a front man, isn't he? Somebody else is pulling his strings. It's clearly obvious, because these, like me and you, when we're talking about stuff, we get passionate. We start to raise our voices because we want to do this. We want to get these messages across. With him, there's nothing. There's no passion about anything. Yeah. And when he tries to do it, he's worse than one Tory leader who did a puppet walk across a stage.
This is the thing. The guy is actually emotionless as far as I can see. And then it's the synthetic feeling. And if he does have any feelings, it's only about himself. When he talks about the Ukraine war, an unwinnable war, in my view, he doesn't talk about. He talks about beating Russia. Everything about him says sociopath. I want to actually talk about motivations after this, but before we go further, I do want to remind viewers that we have this very interesting program, I like to think, called Tim Scott Uncancelled. He is he's the supremo of the Freedom Association. You'll find some great programs in our archive and regular contributions from Tim Scott. Have a look at this. Yes, Tim Scott Uncancelled. Thank you, all of you who are watching. If you like what we're doing here, do subscribe at Unprecedented TV and do like and repost. We love it whenever you repost it and you retweet it, as we used to say. And please do tell other people about it as well. If you don't like it, then tell us, because we do want to give you what you need. We're not going to make stuff up, nor will Stephen Morris from the Workers of England Union, I hope. I think you're pretty straight player there. Let's talk about a very interesting point you've just made. What is the nature of the beast? Why is this happening? And some people say the problem for Keir Starmer is that he's actually in the pockets of the World Economic Forum, for example. And he certainly spent a lot of time talking there and sitting there. And he infamously said on one occasion that when asked directly, would you rather be in the World Economic Forum or in Davos, or in Parliament, he'd rather be in the World Economic Forum. Now, there are those in my team who made me promise to ask you this, Stephen Morris. Do you think that he's getting his instructions from the WEF?
I'm not sure whether it's the WEF, but he's getting his instructions from somewhere. And like you've already mentioned, it is a classic one where he has said he puts Davos above Westminster. And any UK Parliament, any UK PM who says they're putting up an organisation in Davos above our parliament, they shouldn't even be a prime minister. They should be out automatically, because his first role is to protect and look after the interests of this country and its people. And as soon as he said that, he should have been out. You know, there is possibly people giving him instructions. We know this occurs. His advisors. I don't think he's as clever as people make out. Somebody did point out once that he is a barrister, but you see, a barrister's sometimes they just sit behind the desk and push papers. They don't normally do the fighting at the coal face, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not sure whether it's the WEF or someone, but he definitely is taking instructions from somewhere else, as far as I'm concerned.
I think it's a national disgrace. We've got a prime minister who'd rather be there than here. What did he think he was achieving? Who did he think he was going to impress? Was presumably his paymasters. I mean, that's the thing. You tend to assume you'd only say a thing like that if you're actually trying to impress somebody.
Well, his paymasters are the Labour supporting unions, aren't they? They're some of his paymasters. Although I believe he made quite a bit of money making some land into a trust fund to give to his relative, didn't he? So he knows how to use the trust funds. He should have advised Angela Rayner about her tax affairs as well, then, shouldn't he?
Awkward. You're right there. Awkward. Yeah. It wasn't really worth it for the small amount that she saved. I mean,
no.
Maybe she'll come back. Maybe she'll come racing back as the savior of the United Kingdom and the Labour Party. But I very much doubt that. I think it's more likely that nothing will happen to her. But you never know. I mean, a lot of things are going to change quite soon, I would say there. Just one more thing about the Davos connection. I have real major concerns when so many people in the political world are so keen to be involved in something which isn't elected, set up by one guy, Klaus Schwab, who's made an absolute fortune, but now has been turfed out himself.
Well, that's my concern. We have a parliamentary democracy, which to me is not ideal in a way, because Starmer's, although he's got a massive majority in seats, he got less votes than Corbyn, didn't he? Yeah. And if you go off, and only in the US, they mentioned about the popular vote as well. The vast majority of this country voted against him anyway. They voted for other people. The issue here is that he got in, but he also wants to be at an unelected Davos. That's who he puts above our parliament. And to me, that's just not a position a PM can be in. Well, you cannot say that you believe in democracy and even our parliamentary system, but then say that you support Davos over Westminster.
And now, returning to the digital ID, and there is an idea, this is a conspiracy, a global conspiracy. Interesting what you said before about giving the world rights to your face. If you do this, Owen Jones, who's pretty left-wing, why we all have to stand against digital ID. Not only has Keir Starmer raised the ire of the Conservatives, which isn't very important, they're obviously out for now. Reform, which is very important. And David Bull, who's their chairman, I saw him personally last week, and he said, or a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, who said that the Reform UK Party would scrap this. In other words, the longest its shelf life would be is till 2029. So not only that, but his own party is railing against it, which is maybe one reason he's so unpopular. Why we all have to stand against digital ID. It's not really a very good look for a man who's already unpopular.
Well, the other thing is if you look at what they're saying he's going to be costing, I believe that a few things doing around is Tony Blair's son's one of the CEOs of an organisation that may be up for the contract.
Unbelievable.
But they're saying the contract could be between 140 and 400 million. And yet the people who deal in digital IDs are saying, no, it's more like 2 billion. So who are we going to believe? The government, whose accounting is absolutely appalling in a way. Nobody would believe an actual figure that came out of this government to do with that, or the actual people involved. So the actual figures are all over the place. But it's interesting that because I do attend other groups, and one group is actually quite very mixed group, and there's members of the Communist Party, Reform, there was Conservatives, there was Labours, all in there, and there is quite a consensus across a lot of these groups that the ID is just not viable. It doesn't work. It's not going to achieve what they want to achieve. And it really, they're just trying to con us. So I'm not sure who he's trying to convince in his own party, because there is a lot on the left also who don't agree with this and are not happy with it.
You mentioned their accounting problems. It's not really a digression. It's an indication of how bad they really are. Keir Starmer spent years saying that Israel had a right to defend itself, really annoying his own left wing, which was sympathetic to Palestine. Now he's saying the opposite. He's now saying that he'll recognize Palestine. So he's annoyed the first lot as well. And there was actually a demonstration during Rachel Reeves's recent speech at the conference. I think she was briefly kind of stalled in what she was doing because one person was screaming at her. The speech was pathetic in my view. After everything that she's been saying in terms of the economy, suddenly she's going to raise taxes after promising not to. But the Palestinian thing, it's just another example of how accident prone this particular party is. I think she completely lacks credibility. She was on television today and a few days ago, and in the future, no doubt as well, talking quite often, being repeated. And some of it's just on social networks. So you can find this any day of the week. Not sure when she originally said it. To be precise, I saw it today. She said, she was going to do something for children, for young people, and for adults, young adults who need to get work. And yet, one of the things that she herself seems to have achieved is the stagnation of our own economy. And now, if you add that to what we've just been talking about, is the crippling cost of ID cards. I don't see how you do them for less than £100 a person, by the way. That would be more like 7 billion. I can't see how it all fits together, Stephen. You got this incompetent chancellor who couldn't even get her CV right. You got a prime minister who'd rather be in the World Economic Forum, and an ID card thing, which is going to get junked in 2029 when Nigel Farage becomes prime minister anyway.
Yeah, it's Rachel Reeves, let's face it, she really is inept. She's out of her depth. She hasn't really got a clue. The thing is, if they attempted to get the benefit system dealt with and try and reform that, and obviously the backbenchers revolted on that. How do you get more people off benefits and reduce the tax bill? You get businesses developing, you get businesses growing, you get businesses selling. And the way to do that is you've got to not put taxes up, you've got to put them lower. You've got to lower the taxes, make sure that people have more money in the pocket. They're more likely to spend it on products in businesses, and that you've got to regenerate the spending. You've got to get people out and about, either going out for a pint or whatever they want to do, or go to the gym. At the moment, she's completely screwed everybody over to do with taxes, so they have absolutely no money that's going to generate any wealth. It's just gone. And so where she's going to get these monies from, it's going to go into our debt, isn't it? It's going to be more debt. The bond markets are now really don't want to touch us. We're becoming like a third world nation as far as debt's concerned. And that only means one thing: are we going to go into the hands of the big bankers, world bankers,
The IMF, the International Monetary Fund.
Thank you. I was trying to think of the name, but
I thought that's what you meant. But I didn't want to show you up, Stephen. I forgot to embarrass you.
Well, if I can't remember the name, I'll hold my hands up. I can't remember the name for a minute. But yeah, they're just completely just driving it into a brick wall, this economy, and they've got no ideas. But going back to what you were saying about the Palestine thing, I think he's actually had to do that because of the threat of Corbyn and his possible party, because more pro-Palestinian supporters within his party will go towards Corbyn rather than stay with Starmer. That's the way I think it will go. And I think he's trying to consolidate what base he's actually got left and not lose any.
That's not going to work, though. I mean, he can't be on both sides.
That's
his problem. It just can't. It's just not credible. He spent the last 2 years provoking the very people you're describing the people who tend to gravitate towards George Galloway and also towards Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana, I think it is, assuming they've settled their differences. And he's not going to convince those people to come back. I would say 10 percentage points of the polling will go, if they settle down in that direction, which will get them languishing in the mid-teens.
I can't see how he's going to pull it back. He certainly won't. And even if they change leader, if they manage to get one in, I still don't think they're going to be able to pull it back, because it's going to be very much like musical chairs, which he's done with his cabinet. You know, all he's done is moved the incompetent and the inept around different chairs in his cabinet. Yeah. That's all he's done.
I'll get you back to talk about David Lammy on a different occasion. Let's think about where we started, and that was the digital ID card fiasco. There's a petition going on at the moment. This is going to be an out-of-date figure, but when we put this up, 2.5 million signatures do not introduce digital ID cards. 2.5 million people who will not comply, and probably 5 times that. I mean, if a quarter of the British population won't comply, it's a dead duck. You can't put 12.5 million people on notice of prosecution. Maybe they'll try. They tried to arrest like almost 1,000 people at a Palestine demonstration recently. 2.5 million. This does not look good for the government.
No, I think he's definitely gone the wrong way on this one. 2.5 million petition. Again, it depends how much notice, because obviously it's now got to be debated in Parliament. And if his other MPs start to see these kind of figures, they're going to start panicking a bit. You know, there's no such thing now as a safe seat with Labour. All their seats are up for grabs, because people are just fed up with them. And like I say, there's various people on the left as well, in the Labour's constituencies, who are not in favour of this and will go somewhere else. You know,
and they can. That's one of the interesting things. This will be manna from heaven for Reform UK, because they have unequivocally, clearly, and credibly said, we will scrap these digital ID cards when we win in 2029. They're ahead in the polls. They've got virtually twice what the Labour Party has in some polls, and they got just over 4 million votes. Well, I would be willing to bet not all of those 2.5 million were Reform voters, but they could be now. Why would anybody vote for Keir Starmer if you are angry enough to go to the trouble of signing this petition?
Well, the thing is, he flip-flops. The usual one I put out, I usually put a picture, whenever he says anything, I usually put a picture of flip-flops, because he's done more than Blackpool Beach. So they can't be trusted. They can't be trusted on anything they say, anything they do. You know, they've backtracked on everybody. You know, the WASPy women, the winter fuel allowance, you know, the farmers, the tax, everything. The one that really sticks for me, sticks in my throat, is the one to do with winter fuel allowance. That to me was one of the worst, because people forget that they removed the winter fuel allowance knowing from their own Labour report that up to 4,000 pensioners could die each winter, and they still did it. And to me, that is for any Prime Minister to do that, knowing from your own report, it's to me, it was appalling. And that's a real one that sticks with me.
Same with me. And after the vicious attacks by people like Angela Rayner, who hubristically maybe got her comeuppance against the Conservatives in the past, saying, oh, they'll abolish the winter fuel allowance, and then they did it. Now, no one's perfect. That's not my issue. My issue is that they're hubristic, that they're hypocritical, they've got double standards. That's my problem. Somebody comes to me, they made a mistake. Well, anyone who's had children knows that's how you learn. But this lot seem to be perfectly happy to be like the pigs in Animal Farm in George Orwell, where they start by saying 4 legs good, 2 legs bad, and then they take over the farmhouse and they walk around on the 2 legs saying 2 legs good, 4 legs bad. It's the same thing that we're seeing with the Labour Party. Nose in the trough. And that's what really bothers me more than anything else about what we've got.
Well,
go on.
That was the problem, a big problem that he's had, and that Labour's had, is they put themselves on a pedestal as they were going to be clean as clean. You know, they were not the Tories that they were kept hitting on to do with all these cash issues and everything. They were going to be clean as clean, and within months they were already caught out. You don't go on a platform, stand on an election on that platform with that kind of script without knowing you are squeaky clean. You know?
But no one is. Nobody is. So when you put this out, trade union statement opposing digital identification, it would be interesting to see how many of the Labour MPs now at some point oppose digital ID. I haven't got the resources at the moment to look it up. My team might be able to do it. Maybe I will have a look at it later on. I'm certainly going to sign that petition. But let's finish here. Together we are stronger. That's the slogan of Workers of England Union. Yep. Tell us again, what's the name of your website?
It's www.workersofengland.co.uk. We do have a brand new site going live in a couple of days, but that statement will still be there and everything. We're not changing from that, even though we'll change our website design, but we don't change our views. We're here to represent the individual on their issues, and really that's what we're about. You know, together we are stronger. We've shown that this is what unions were all built on, being stronger together. Yeah. The way we see it is digital IDs could be a way of breaking people up, you know, suddenly saying, well, that particular group can't have this or that particular group can't have that. And it's a downward spiral, you know. We saw this during COVID. A lot of us saw what was happening then, and we managed to stop a lot of it. We can see what's happening here. But I think at the moment with the digital ID, there's a lot more people have woken up to the tactics of the government to try and mislead people. And this might be an underlying thing to mislead them on something else. But ID is not going to achieve what they want it to achieve. No. And like I said at the beginning, the processes are already in place. So what are they up to? It's got to be something else, and that is to be able to control any kind of form of dissent against the government. You know, if you look at it, let's say all these people who went on this September 13th rally, right? If they had a facial ID van there, it would have been picking them all up, finding out who was there straight away. You're on a list. From a trade union point, we know what these lists have been like in the past, because we know people have been blacklisted for being members of trade unions or being trade union reps. That happens, you know, in our history. We've seen that, and it has actually occurred. So who's to say with a digital ID, we're not going to end up with a modern day blacklisting of either trade unionists or people who don't comply with the government narrative? You know, that's why. Yeah, that's why as a trade union, we're saying we've seen this in our history. We're not going to go back to that.
Real pleasure to speak with you, and we'll get you back very soon. Thank you so much. That's Stephen Morris from the Workers of England Union, General Secretary. Have your say. As usual, you can meet me on X, and I do my best to respond to your commentary. Also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Unprecedented TV. It costs nothing for now. Thank you for all of those who have subscribed. We are getting bigger, and you can follow me on X as well, at Lembit Öpik, and you'll get most of our shows there as well. Do keep watching. Loads of great shows coming up as well, and we're moving into the entertainment and culture world in the next few weeks as well. If you're watching this on the archive, compare what's been said with what's happened. I'd be willing to bet we're more or less on the money. But if we're not, we'll be the first to admit it. If we are, we'll be the first to remind you. Thanks very much to the team. Thanks very much to Stephen Morris from the Workers of England Union. And do have a look at their site. It's a refreshing change when it comes to union literature, because it's not about party politics. It's about people politics. And most important of all, thank you for watching and for trusting your judgment here on Lembit Öpik Live and Unprecedented TV. Have a good day.
Immediate ceasefire in Gaza. the return of the sausages.